Hello and welcome to busyworksbeats.com. I know you guys may feel stuck in music theory. You may think it's too complicated. You can't understand sheet music. People are speaking in a PhD level when they're communicating simple ideas. Like instead of just saying, this, for example, is a minor chord. So what they'll do is, let's say they simply play it to where the notes up here, they'll call this a second inversion. Now, if you don't know any better in music theory, it's going to sound complicated, like second inversion. But all they did was just drop the fifth down an octave from here to here. But there's complicated terms like second inversion. Like what does that even mean? Now you got to go figure out what that even means. But it's something simple. Okay, so I could try to communicate music theory terms in a way where it's colloquial, that we could share with our friends, to where they don't need to know everything about music theory to apply the actual message. So today we're going to focus on a concept that I realized the pattern for. And one of my favorite chords is this chord here. And I stumbled across this chord by accident one day. So I want to make this video to show you guys how to get out of your, rut, musically speaking, when it comes to music theory. So I realized, this chord is really just, because I was going to play a minor ninth chord. And I was like, let me just convert this to a major chord. And then in my head, I went, isn't my favorite chord an A major 9? But this doesn't give me the same vibe. Okay, so what we're going to do is show you guys how to convert this vibe into this, which sounds more rich to my ear. Okay, so the simple explanation is that we're playing a 5-note chord here. So you guys could just copy this if you want to go step by step. Playing a 5-note chord here. Whoops. Okay, so this is A minor ninth, A, C, E, G, B. It's all the white notes starting from A and skipping every white note starting from A until you get to B. To convert this to a major, we're basically going to take what's called the third and the seventh, these two notes, C and G, and pull them up a half step or one note. Okay, so that's how we're forming this chord. Okay, there's a chord code for it. Major ninth chords is 0, 4, 7, 11, 14. We're not getting into chord codes in this video though. What we're going to do is take this third and we're going to use what's called the harmonic series to help us voice this chord. So whenever you guys feel like your chords aren't hitting the way you read them online, it's probably the voicing of the chord. And I teach this on our music theory bundle. So for example, let's raise this third up an octave. So let's take this C flat, pull it up. Okay, now if we want to add that final touch, let's take the fifth down here and duplicate it up an octave. Now play all these notes together. It's just a great chord. But now let's apply it to other chord types. So let's use that same concept. So I want you guys to understand, I teach in concepts, not these convoluted, arduous thinking things people do in music theory to get because they're bored. All right, so let's start here at C. So the same exact thing, skip the white notes till you fill out this chord here. This is a major ninth, okay, starting at C. We're going to use that same formula, which is to raise the third up an octave. And then we're going to add the fifth, which is this note G, up an octave. Okay, so this chord versus this chord. This sounds darker and dull. This feels more open and lively. You can even play it melodically, whereas if I did the same thing, it just sounds dark and melancholy. All right, so let's close my eyes, and now we're going to start using chord codes. I'm just going to pick a random note. We landed on B flat. So let me show people who are new to my system. I teach in a very different way than everybody else online because I'm a sound designer, music producer first, and I learned music theory. I discovered this new way because I was so frustrated. I was like, I learned from sheet music and I learned from a teacher in college. He was a great teacher, Michael Hollinger, shout out to him. And he taught us on the staff. And I always had an issue translating the staff to the DAW because the DAW is way different than the staff sheet music. And he taught us, the first, the third, the fifth is how you make, simple triads. Well, there's a lot of complication with that. You have to understand which scale you're in. You have to memorize the scale. There's all these steps you have to do before you even get to your first chord. And I said, why are chords this complicated? And then basically I went to apply a chord to a sound design tool called Silent 1 at the time, for those who know. And I put 1, 3, and 5 as the semitone values, and it sounded like this. If I had to recreate it, it was like 1, it was this. And something sounded wrong. I was like, that's not a major chord. And so basically I figured out a way. I was like, oh, I'm applying scale degrees to semitone integer notation. So I call these chord codes because I discovered the DNA of what makes a chord. So for example, we started at, what was it, B flat? I can make a major ninth chord without knowing anything about music theory. So as long as you guys can count, you can create chords. So for example, the major ninth chord, I will give you guys a free chord code chart at busyworksbeats.com/music theory. It has all the chords laid out for you. So the major ninth chord in that case is 0, 4, 7, 11, 14. All right, so 0 is your root note. So this is wherever you start. This is considered 0, or the point of rest. We're going to count up the keyboard note by note until we finish out this chord code. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And play all these notes together. Now you get a major ninth chord no matter where you are on the keyboard. Let's go up an octave just because it's a little bit lighter. Okay, so we always create a major ninth chord because it has a DNA that I call chord code. So I created that system because I discovered it by accident. Okay, so if you go to busyworksbeats.com/music theory, I'll send you guys the chord code chart for free. So it's a great way to get started with music theory without it being super overwhelming. Okay, so now we have the major ninth chord. Now let's apply that same system. Let's raise this third up an octave. And then let's take our fifth and add that in. And now we have a much more energetic way to express this chord versus this. This just has a dullness to it. This has like a splatter sound to it. So all you got to do is just learn these chord voicings. So let's do this. Let's learn 2 chords here. Because one of my favorite chords is A major ninth. Let's find the fifth of this, which would be E. So to find the fifth, you take your root note, you count up 7 notes from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's how you get to the fifth. It always is 7 notes away from your root note. So let's build that same chord, the major ninth chord, with that same voicing from E so that we can cycle between the two. We can even use dominant chords to kind of throw in some variation and resolve back on major. Now when we're getting a little complicated here, but when I voice my chords as a sharp 5, sharp 9 dominant chord, it's called an altered chord. And I will show you guys how to use all these building blocks. I simplify it so it's not as complicated. Just go to busyworksbeats.com, look for the music theory bundle. This usually likes to resolve into the minor. Okay, simply because of the way I'm voicing it. Now, if we pulled back I know we're speaking music theory and ease for a second, but if we pull back the 5th and the 9th, here's the normal voicing for a dominant 9th chord. Let's see if this resolves more smoothly into that major. So we might have to pull our R&B-ness back because we're landing into a major chord. Anyhow, so that's where we're landing. So let's take the A major chord. Let's apply this to E. So firstly, let's map out the white notes so it's easier. So starting at E, we skip every other white note to create. I don't know why it says. Oh, you know what, my dumb self. Duh, there we go. Here's E minor ninth. So in this case, you would have to basically use the chord code for minor ninth is 0, 3, 7, 10, 14, because this is not all white notes once you get into the ninth extension. So to convert this to a major chord, we're going to take the 3rd and the 7th and pull them up 1. And luckily, the major is very similar to the dominant chord. All we got to do is take this 7th and pull it down 1. So it's super easy to transition between these two. And now we have a 3-chord sequence we could use just like that. All right, so let's focus on the major chord and let's revoice this. Now, if we were to keep the same voicing, we could just, again, transition. And now we have a storytelling chord progression just like that. But let's do our voicing technique. Let's raise this third. So this is A flat. Let's pull it up an octave. And let's take our fifth and add that in. So the fifth is B in this case. This just sounds more like what a major ninth should sound like. Okay, so trying to translate it, my fingers are all over the place. Forgot the voicing. Okay, this one's a little tricky. Not as easy as our other chords. That's why I said part of this is memorizing. Hold on. Okay, let's start with E. We have here. Start from ground zero. We have the minor ninth. Switch the third and the seventh. We have the major. Okay, my fingers are just all over the place. Okay, so we got the major. Let's go back up, raise this note here, and then add that fifth, which is B. Okay, my fingers are just on the wrong set of black notes. So it's the 3 inner black notes, basically, plus E and B. Here's the lower octave. Okay, so once you get used to piano, you're really looking at it in shapes. You're not thinking about, okay, I need to raise the third and use the chord codes. It's really a shape. Like I said, I'm looking at the 3 inner black notes and then E and B. It's an easier way to approach it because I have to quickly move through the octaves. But chord codes let you guys understand what actually makes a chord. Okay, so we did this in real time. This isn't like some pre-made thing. So here's my first time learning major ninth chord with this voicing. And now let's go back to the dominant ninth and convert this into A major. Okay, so now we have now playing that is a little bit, you got to really practice here. Because now we're converting a very wide chord voicing back to its normal stance. So I might do something like this. Here we go. So with our new chord, then I do the dominant chord. All right, let's record this in Logic just to show you guys that this has a real world application. So now we're in Logic and hopefully we can nail this the first time around. Let's just go to our tempo, make sure it's not too fast. So 97 should be slow enough. So the first chord, we're going to record our voicing here. Now we got 4 chords just like that. 1, 2. So we're playing the first chord 3 times, or twice, I should say. Let's do this. And I just learned that chord just now with you guys during this video. And that's how fast you guys can apply these music theory concepts once you understand what we're actually doing. So let's cut this off at the 4 bar. And now we have this really unique chord progression that we would not get by just doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Where are we at here? Let's add the 4 bars. Boom. So let's drag this out. My ear hears. Okay, so now we got to add this piano. Let's duplicate this track so I can add another channel here. That's what my ear hears. Now I'm not going off of music theory like what this chord actually is. It's going off of what my ear hears, which is E to B is that perfect fifth. And now I'm just adding this bottom tone. So I'm not thinking about theory, it just happens to be that same chord. Yeah, I tried to finesse it and add a note in there. Let's do that. Let's add another note in there. Just like that, we have a whole different vibe. This reminds me of the movie Little Rascals. Let's record this in. And just like that, we have a whole different vibe, something I would never create from scratch, okay? But I'm showing you guys how fast you can apply this. This video is what, 9 minutes long, maybe? So 15 minutes, if I wasn't explaining, it'd be like 5 minutes. But once you guys get the concept, you can enter a whole new realm. I've never created music like this before. That's how important chord voicing is. It will unlock a whole new realm. And like I said, guys, I truly did not practice that chord beforehand. That was me doing it in real time. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys the actuality of music theory and how fast you guys can learn once you understand the concepts. A lot of people are teaching you to memorize stuff, and that's why it's not sticking. They're not telling you why something works. I explain why it works, and then I simplify so that even beginners can learn this stuff. So go to busyworksbeats.com/music theory to learn more. Subscribe if you're new. Peace out, guys.